Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Pradeep and I'm full-time freelance data scientist. I have earned more than $100,000 on Upwork and I am there like a top rated plus or expert weighted, which represent the top 1% on the Upwork. Here on this channel I share my learning, whatever I learned through my freelancing job or whatever I have learned from my previous job, right? I share the practical NLP tutorials with the state of the art things like, it could be GPT-4, chat GPT, vector databases like Pinecone, ChromaDB, and a lot of this kinds of stuff, right? So if you're someone who are interested in freelancing or the practical NLP tutorial, something that you can learn, apply to your job, or something that you can take and go and get some freelancing work and earn yourself, right? So if you are someone, you should definitely subscribe to my channel, right? Now what I'm going to do in this particular video, I get this question a lot. Hey, what kind of libraries do you use? Hey, do you use this, do you use that? Some of the times, these are the people, let's say other developers who are also, want to know what are the demanding job that I can get some freelancing task for it, right? Some of them are like some interns who wants to get some internship from me, or some of them are collaborators who want to collaborate with me on a certain thing and they want to see what they can learn actually, right? So in this video my whole idea is to share that my tech stack, what things I use and why do I use, whether the thing is that earlier 1 year back also I made a similar video, sharing the tech stack I use. But the thing is that lot of these things has changed now, right? In terms of the new things has come, and I thought of I should definitely create a new video, right? So that's something like, if you are looking to collaborate with me, if you want to get some freelancing job, these are the demanding skill with respect to the natural language processing and let's say the generative AI, natural language processing, kind of a stuff that we will talk about, right? So I have noted those things here so that I don't forget actually. So let's start. We will go one by one what things I use and what's my thought process. So one of the thing is definitely programming language, which is nothing but the Python. I do my most of the job, or let's say all of my job, in a Python, right? So sometimes client do ask me, hey, do you know Java, do you know this Go language or the other language or something? So most of the time I clear them that I only use Python when it comes to data science kind of stuff, because there are a lot of libraries available. When you get something new in the market, right, let's say the new framework or new library or something, most likely it will be available in the Python. So Python is the default language what I use, right? And whoever works with me, I want to make sure they are very good at Python in terms of manipulating something, right? The manipulating the data, or let's say how to make API calls, how to create the APIs, lot of those kinds of things, right? Not typical data structure algorithm, but they should have enough skill to manipulate, let's say, JSON objects and the data and something, right? So the Python is something definitely I care for. And then all those libraries comes with the Python, like let's say the request library and other typical data science library like pandas library, all sort of things. Scikit-learn, I don't remember when did I last use as some kind of a machine learning model from it, but usually I will be sharing the other frameworks what I use. So Python is the language that I use. In terms of specifically machine learning, what libraries and something I use. So first of all, the most used thing is a transformer library, right? So Hugging Face transformer library with the PyTorch syntax. So I usually prefer the PyTorch style. So you can think of Hugging Face transformer, those kinds of stuff. So when do I use the Hugging Face transformers? So let's say anything, right? Where I want to build custom classification model, or I want to fine tune the existing model, right? Or let's say my client wants to only deal with the open source machine learning models, let's say the latest language models, or even the other kind of those whatever the models we have, including it could be anything, it could be the T5 or the BERT model or something like that, right? This is where I will be using transformer, right? And whoever works with me, I expect that they at least know how to use those pre-trained models from the transformer library, and they also know how to fine tune any particular, let's say they want to fine tune a transformer library on a classification problem with their own data, they should be able to do that, right? So I do have cover my NLP videos, right? I have shown how to use the pre-trained model. I have also shown how to fine tune the transformer models. If you are interested, you can go and check that thing also, right? Then other thing is the OpenAI. See, if you want to use the transformer and all of those things, right? Sometimes if you want to fine tune, you need to have your own data. And a lot of people, most of the people, they don't have their own training data. And they also don't want to take any efforts to actually train that model, right? and rather most of the people wants to go through the something few short learning like an OpenAI kind of, right? You can use chat GPT, GPT-4 and that kind of stuff, right? So OpenAI is the most used maybe thing that what I do, right? So in the OpenAI I will be let's say nowadays it's a chat GPT API, GPT-4, and embedding sometime, but most likely I use sentence transformer embedding, right? So that also, let's say with the transformer, so a lot of the problem statement now demands, let's say, transformer, sentence transformer, and OpenAI kind of a thing, and the vector databases that we will talk, right? So think of this thing, right? What I just discussed, the OpenAI model. You should be good at accessing those OpenAI things. You should know how to write the prompt, basic thing. I also created multiple videos for that OpenAI thing. You can go and check. So that's about, let's say, the machine learning transformer, OpenAI sentence transformer, right? And now let's talk about where do I deploy all these applications, right? So we need to deploy it for the client, right? So I will be using AWS services. That's what my default choice. Some people want to deploy it on, let's say, Google Cloud or something. Then I will go and check. But my default choice will be always I deployed it on a AWS. I think nothing any specific thing. I just started first using the AWS and I find comfortable with, right? So I used to use a lot of different things from the AWS services. For example, I used to use Fargate. I used to do the AWS Lambda API and something, but nowadays I kept it simple. That is what I said, that things have changed, right? Nowadays I don't use Lambda. Instead, if the client wants, then only I use the AWS Lambda services, right? Or mostly I will be using most of my solutions are given as an API. When they're going to deploy in the production, it will be in the form of APIs, right? So I am using the fast API and not the AWS Lambda. I used to use AWS Lambda, but nowadays I only use fast API. Another reason for it, actually, when actually hiring any other collaborator on the intern, right, they're more likely to have some experience with the fast API than the AWS Lambda. I also think deploying fast API, making changes, things are quite easy, right? So I use EC2VM to host and deploy that particular application, and the API I will be using fast API to do that kind of thing, right? But during the development, let's say we are building some OpenAI or chat GPT kind of application, maybe at the end of the video I talk about the kind of applications I work on, the kind of problem statement I solve, so that you get the idea. So during the development we will be using Streamlit UI, right? Let's say we build a question answering system, right, and which is going to answer from their document. So we will be building a Streamlit app where client can test our progress. They can come, they can ask some questions, right? And then we fetch the relevant details from the, let's say, vector databases. We show them what we have fetched actually, right? And then they could see what answer is generated, so that they can give us feedback, right? And that's pretty quick. So we will be using Streamlit throughout our development, and once things are stable, they are okay with that, that's where we will expose the same thing as an API. And most likely then both things will run simultaneously. The API will be used by their production system. Let's say there are other their developers, some different teams and different applications, they can make a call to, let's say, our API and get the same functionality done, and you will be still having Streamlit because you keep building new things and making progress or correcting things, right? So that's what we use when it comes to delivering the application. If it is API, we use the fast API. If it is during the development, we use the Streamlit. And there is one more thing that we recently started, which is Anvil. So what happened, the Anvil is a Python full stack kind of framework, right? So you can drag and drop, you can create the UI, and then you can write logic in a Python. I started using it because some of the clients want more sophisticated thing than the Streamlit. Okay, they want, hey, we should have this custom proper UI, right? They also want that that what else is this thing, easily deployable custom domain name. That is another requirement. And then one of the best thing is this thing. What was that? So I talk about custom domain, the drag and drop UI. What was the other thing that I forgot? Yes, user management. So a lot of times people, they want that, hey, it should act like a web development, web application. We should be able to create the users and all of this. That's why we started using Anvil, right? But then some client want more sophisticated solution, proper front end like a React.js kind of thing. They want chatbot to be properly built. In that case, I have a collaborator actually who works with me. Then we build using, let's say, React.js and other proper technologies actually to build something. But then if I want to build this, it means the cost is going to increase, right? Earlier, the same person who is building, let's say, the machine learning or OpenAI thing, he is the same person who can quickly create the Anvil app or the Streamlit app, right? Streamlit is pretty easy. Anvil might take some time to go and check the things. I have also created a couple of videos for the Anvil that you can go and check, right? But then I can tell them that, hey, it is going to cost you more if you want. Now the other person, there are not two people, right? The one who will be, let's say, at the front end side, and there are maybe a couple of people at the back end side, right, doing things. So that is also thing. But when you want to work with me, I am not caring much about the Java, React, and all of those things. Yeah, if you are good with, let's say, Python, Streamlit, Anvil is not necessary. You can watch a couple of videos and then we can start working on that, right? Okay. Now we talk about the machine learning libraries, then the UI framework that we use, the API we use, the cloud AWS EC2. But then another important thing, that's what every application is currently having, is the vector databases, right? Everyone wants ChatGPT, but for their own data, and that's where the vector databases come into the picture. You have vector databases like Pinecone, which is like a paid service, right? I use that also. Then we have open source alternatives. I use, let's say, ChromaDB, which is like a default vector DB supported in, let's say, the LangChain, right? Now, as we talk about the LangChain, right? So think of this way: what kind of applications we are getting? As I told, right? People want to build ChatGPT for their own document or own data, right? It means you need some proper way to process those documents. Let's say those are the PDF document, create the chunks, store them in a vector databases, right? And then, right, so this whole thing usually I do with the LangChain, right? Mostly the part where you want to create the chunk, like LangChain has a better utilities to do that thing, right? And then you use vector databases. Depends on if the client wants open source, we will be using ChromaDB. Even I started now default using the ChromaDB because it is free rather than paying high price for the Pinecone, right? So that vector databases also you should be able to familiar, right? It means this all things working in a combination. You need OpenAI to actually build, let's say, chatbot kind of thing or anything, question answering or chatbot. You need transformer library for the at least for the sentence transformer, right? Where you could take those different chunks, create the embedding, store those embedding in the vector databases, right? And all of those things are important to vector databases. And if you want to work with me nowadays, this is going to be important. LangChain is something, as I told, right, is the framework that makes it easy to build applications on top of, let's say, large language model. But it's not compulsion always. Sometimes I would rather prefer a simple OpenAI call that makes things clean actually. And if it requires some kind of a document processing and other activities, then I go for the LangChain, right? And also the Llama index is another library that we started, right? So LangChain can create only the basic index, right? You take the document. There are no different ways you can index the document, the way that structure represent in a vector databases, right? But then Llama index has a different ways that how do you want to, you can store it as a tree kind of a structure, a graph kind of a structure, right? And depends on your need. The Llama index has actually multiple ways to create the index, right? So a lot of time client might not happy with the, let's say, the normal index that we created using, let's say, pure let's say Pinecone index or Chroma index, and they want a different style of index. Then we start experiment with the Llama index and see something which can work better for them, right? So that's what if you want to work with me, I have created videos for LangChain, I have created videos for Llama index. This is also one of the objective of creating videos for that, so that my team can go and watch those videos, right? So if I'm working with them, if they use my code, right, it becomes easy for me to quickly fix their code, right? If the last moment they are not available or they need something, I can get it into change things and quickly deploy, right? So I prefer if things are, I'm already familiar with those things and code whatever, right? Now we talk about vector databases, the frameworks like LangChain and Llama index. Next thing is the database, right? A lot of application, let's say you build the chatbot, right? You need to store all those conversations, you need to maintain some session information, right? If they want to visualize, hey, how many messages we got, how many conversations or different sessions your chatbot had, right? We need a database, right, to store all of this information. So by default, I will be using MySQL. Unless and until client wants, let's say, PostgreSQL or something, I will be using MySQL, and I use AWS RDS, which is Relational Database as a Service. Now it doesn't matter whether you have just basic experience with the local host or some other DB. This is something you can quickly pick up. Only you should be at least familiar with the SQL, right? Selecting the data, joining the data. These are the typical things we require if you want to build the full scale application. So these are things. Let me see if I miss anything. So I said that we use Python, we use OpenAI models, we use transformers, sentence transformers to as a kind of a machine learning model. Let's say the large language models, or maybe like a BERT kind of a model. Then we also use those frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index if needed, not always, right? And then we use AWS as a cloud provider, and then I use mostly EC2 instances to deploy our application. The API we will be using fast API, and if it is the UI, then we have either for development streamlit application. For more sophisticated development UI, or maybe they can take it to the customer also, is the Anvil. And if they want really sophisticated thing, then I have a collaborator that then we build using React JX and all. That is something you don't need to worry about it. And then the other thing I talk about um, vector databases like a Pinecone and ChromaDB. Nowadays I started preferring ChromaDB because it is an open source, right? And the database, I think we covered all of this thing. Maybe I can talk about couple of problem statement that we do, right? So it could be the simplest thing, right? Let's say like intent detection system, right? You want to detect the intent of the message. Now where it could be useful, like let's say for the one of the client we build, so they have a clinic, what you call the chain of clinics, and where patient gets an appointment reminder. Let's say when they have an appointment, they will get, hey, you have appointment at this particular location from this doctor, and something like that at 10 a.m. or 11 p.m. And then patient will reply to that message, text message, right? And then we need to analyze the intent of that message. Is he confirming, is he going to come? For example, they might say that, hey, I won't be there, I need to maybe drop my kids to school. It could be anything. Hey, now I'm feeling well, I don't want to come, or yes, I will be there. So you need to analyze the text of it. And so there are a couple of ways you can fine tune a bird based model, like a custom classification model, or you can use the simplest GPT prompt which can answer this thing for you, right? So that kind of a problem statement, it basically intent classification. It can also be used in the bot. What exactly they want? Does he wants to know about his order detail? Does he wants to know about you need to understand the intent, right? Whether they want to book the order or they want to know the status of the order, right? That becomes the intent kind of a thing, right? And that's where the whole thing about automated customer support that we built for one of the e-commerce company. They have multiple websites in multiple countries actually. And so we build a automated customer support thing for them, right? So we kind of take whatever the let's say email or the ticket we got, and then we see earlier conversation, and based on that we use, let's say, chat GPT or GPT-4 to generate the reply for it, right? And sometimes what happens, to generate that reply you need to call some internal APIs, right? That's where they can't use something pre-built chatbots or something. Like they want to build a custom thing. Why? Because they want the chatbot should communicate with their internal thing. If I'm coming and I'm asking, hey, where is my order, right? Then bot might ask me, okay, can you tell me your order details, or they need to verify whether he's the same person, the email and all of this thing, right? And then it can call some internal APIs and get the order details and present that information to the customer, right? It could be some, you see, if it is a chatbot, we also have a customer support ticketing system auto reply thing, right? Where we generate the reply, but currently we are not sending that reply directly because a lot of time it requires other back office tasks that needs to be created. So usually support agent look at that reply. If they want to edit, they can edit and they can simply send, right? So we build that kind of a system, chatbot, customer support kind of thing. We also build one of the big project is the automated billing for the medical insurance thing, right? Where we have a lot of different kinds of documents, we extract some information from it. We use the OCR, we use GPT to extract something, and then eventually we make sure we convert them in a format that's something the other API can understand, and we send that detail. Whole complex thing, right? As I told you, right? So automated insurance billing system that we built. And there will be a small projects also which we like building some kind of a name entity recognition. Now this is where the difference. Earlier I used to use Spacey to do the name entity recognition, to build the custom fine-tuned model, but literally actually creating the training data for the name entity recognition is hard. It takes a lot of laborious work, right? And so a lot of time clients don't have time, don't have patience. They want something to build quickly using, let's say, ChatGPT. And that's what my observation. So I don't include now Spacey as one of the tech stack in my thing, right? Because I don't remember recently using it. You might use for some pre-processing, right? But that's not something I look for now, because I have the other alternatives. So don't use Spacey, right? Like summarizing the large document, answering question, as I told you, right? During that The typical most popular problem statement is chat GPT for their own document, right? Which requires processing documents like chunking and all of those things, putting them in a vector database, creating the embedding, putting them in a vector database, retrieving that, pass to the OpenAI or chat GPT and generate the answer. OCR, entity extraction, I already talked. Another interesting is aspect based sentiment analysis. We do get sometimes some problem statement or the aspect level sentiment and not the overall sentiment, right? And quite of many problem statement like something related to the resume parsing, parsing the resume, or it could be related to generating the resume, all sort of things. If see, things are mostly related to some kind of okay, I do work natural language processing, so that's all of this problem, from intent detection to the question answering or document to the chatbot support, and everything is a text. We don't do image related things, right? So this is what I kind of cover a lot of things. I think I talk about the tech stack what we use and the kind of problem statement we work at. These are only few of them, kind of a representative. Most of them will be some variation of what I do, and I can't actually disclose. This is maybe the one of the drawback of as a freelancer, right? So maybe a lot of clients don't want actually that that you tell the people that you help them to build that particular, right? They don't want that thing. So we need to respect their things that so we don't disclose. Usually I won't be disclosing any brand name or something like that for which I work. But then that is what I create the YouTube video, right? I take something generic. Now I don't bother about what documents, what domain they build. My only concern is we build something with the PDF document, right? And that's something knowledge I share, right? So we build for the customer support, e-commerce customer support. We won't be disclosing what was that client and all of that information, and you as a freelancer needs to respect that kind of a thing, right? So yeah, that's all. So if you think that you are quite good with whatever the things I talk about, and you think that you can quickly learn them, something, you can reach out to me. And if you want internship, if you want want to collaborate with me, right? If you even check my recent internship job posting that we created, I asked for the similar skill. And the good thing is that for everything what I just talked, for everything we have a video on my channel, because that's what my purpose, right? I want to make sure the kind of work I do, I need to show the people that hey, I'm capable of doing this thing. I also want to make sure that my team can go check those videos and use the similar materials so that it becomes easy for me to modify those things, right? So that is also one of the objective of actually creating the video, getting the job also and helping my team also, right? Who knows, tomorrow the channel become big and that also generates some good amount of money. Currently not, but it is monetizing, but not that I think it generates a couple of $100 or something a month, but yeah, who knows, tomorrow this also, if I'm regularly posting the video, this can also kind of create one good income stream for me, right? So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any doubts related to data science freelancing or freelancing or anything related to NLP, or what kind of videos I should create, right? Some suggestions you have, let me know in the comment, right? Usually I try to answer most of the comments. Sometimes I might ignore the comment, if there I have already answered it, or something that I can't help with, right? But most of the time I try to reply the comment. Okay, thank you.